What happens when one of the biggest stars in Turkish TV storms off his own show? Burak Özçivit has left Kuruluş Osman over salary disputes, allegedly. And while this is breaking news, the writing has been on the wall, I feel. Let's take a look at all of the elements that make up a Turkish TV, Kuruluş Osman, and Burak Özçivit's contract, and try to understand why this has happened. So as we saw, Burak Özçivit shaved his beard, posted a photo on Instagram, and then after that we saw news of salary clashes, fading sets, actor disappearances, franchise reboots, so on and so forth. We saw Burak and Bozdag unfollow each other, we saw the dramatic goodbye post from Burak, and we've allegedly heard that he demanded like 4 million Turkish lira, which was a huge jump from what he was making before. And because of this jump, we can speculate that this was a power move or like a threatening move, a way for him to get out of his contract. Normally in Turkish productions, these actors get short contracts, so that's why you can see like main characters leave within a season or so, but obviously Burak, being the main character, had a longer term contract, and I guess they might have been renewing it for the last season or something like that, and Burak made this demand and things fell out. Now, I may get some heat for this, but I believe that Burak Özçivit is a phenomenal actor. However, I don't think he's a great professional. And as an actor, I would say he's good because of his looks. His looks, his voice, and his charisma. But in terms of effort, I wouldn't say it's all there. Guys like Engin Altan, right? He has a good look, he has good charisma, but what elevates the performance, elevates the show, is the passion that you can see exhuming from his performance in Ertuğrul. Something we clearly don't see out of Burak, and Burak's lack of effort shows in the rest of the cast, right? If the main actor is not, he's the anchor of the show, and if he's not trying his hardest, you can see it in the rest of the cast. They don't have a bar to like reach up to, they don't have much to live up to. I mean, notably, Burak had like 1 or 2 moves in every fight scene. You can see a lot of backstage, behind-the-scenes clips of Ertuğrul and other actors in that show choreographing and practicing fights out of their own volition because they wanted the show to succeed. They wanted their parts in the show to be special. But we rarely saw that rarely saw that effort from Burak. On top of that, he is quite notorious for being hard to work with. There was an incident a year or 2 ago where a bunch of crew members unionized to backlash against Burak's, attitude or disrespect towards them. The crew members, the people who hold the lights, the mics, set up the sets, so on and so forth. I mean, that's kind of a hint as to who the problem really is. Now, of course, there are 2 sides to this. Mehmet Bozdag, and his production. Definitely there was a terrible decline in the quality of writing from that show and production. As we know, Turkish dramas are like 2 hours and 30 minutes, right? They have tight schedules where they're working 6 days a week, like 20-hour days, and it's a crunch. It's a big crunch, so I can understand that tires people out. And at the same time, when you're producing so much content, it's hard to come up with proper creative storylines. However, that's kind of an invalid claim because they have like 6 to 8 months between seasons to come up with a story. I know people need a break, but I feel like 1 or 2 months is more than enough, and then the writers should be getting a head start. They don't have to write the script week by week. I feel like that's terribly wrong. They should be starting with like at least half the season and then writing the other half of the season as they start to film. Obviously, we can't blame Bozdag for the lack of writing. He was more involved in the script writing during Ertuğrul because that was the only project he had. That was his make or break project. That is what shot him up into the fame and success that he has now with his production, trying to uphold like 3, 4, maybe 5 projects at the moment. So he's really stringing himself out. We can't just put the blame on Burak and his hard to handle attitude on the set. Bozdag does also have a part to play in this. As the leader of the production, he needs to make good decisions to ensure that his flagship show succeeds. big rocks, little rocks. If you're taking care of the flagship show, all the other shows underneath the umbrella should be able to succeed. But he needs to focus on the flagship. You let that one fall down, the rest of your house of cards comes tumbling down as well. Now, I do also have another speculative claim that part of the reason why the show's production kind of decreased a little is potentially because of the salary demands that some of the main characters were making. For example, if Burak's salary demands were increasing every single season, they need to take a part of the production budget into paying the actor. And we did notice that between seasons 5 and season 6, we lost an entire set, the palace, one of the core elements that represent that Osman is progressing into a major state, this big palace, and then you suddenly take it away and you take steps backwards and go back to the tent, the oba. So I would definitely say potentially Burak's greedy demands also contributed to the decline in quality of the show. However, there is no proof for that, so it's just a claim. Another part of the problem is the fan sentiment. I'm not blaming the fans, but rather the lack of listening to the fans and then listening at the wrong time and then making these quick decisions. For example, fans were complaining about story arcs and nobody listened until season 6, and then because of season 6 they went on this roller coaster of different storylines, story arcs, trying to appease the fans that they already had lost long ago. At the same time, the reason why they lost the sentiment of the core fan base is because the TV exports, the success of the show actually soared, increased, and that's because of I believe the Southeast Asian demographic eating up the show. And so that gave the producers a sense of false confidence that whatever they were doing was right. And yes, I think they did for the first 4 seasons, but then after that, they just kind of rested on their laurels and arrogantly just assumed that they could do whatever they wanted, to put in as little effort as possible and still be successful. And while that's true for a short amount of time, especially with a new, large fan base that you just gained, over time, people are going to realize that you're giving us the same boring storylines and plots and just trash quality production. And so after a mid-season 5 and a lackluster, abysmal season 6, the show kind of ends. I mean, the main actor is gone. And this is tragic because they just brought back Turgut too. They are a little lucky in the sense that they got to a point where they were planning to do a time skip anyways, so they could still potentially do a season 7. Since they lost the main actors that were supposed to carry the rest of the show, the final season, which is, Burak and Emre and all the other main characters, they need to do something. If they're going to go with a time skip, they need to recast. They need to recast all of the main characters. I don't know what they're going to do with side characters like Boran, Cerkutai, Shamil. Are they going to bring them back as old people? Or are they just going to recast everyone? Are they going to just start from fresh? And at that point, if they start from fresh, they might as well just make a new show. I mean, they might as well just start the Orhan series. I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, but I think season 6 ended with this great migration, akin to the end of season 5 of Ertugrul, where you had Ertugrul, the tribe, and a bunch of warriors ride off into the sunset. I think they did a similar thing with season 6, and I think that's a fine point to end the show. Unfortunately, they really dropped the ball with Osman. I mean, Osman could have been a much better show. There were so many opportunities for character arcs and storylines and real history that they just totally dropped the ball on. And I feel like they were waiting till season 7 to kind of go out with a bang, but then unfortunately it's just going to fizzle out because of this situation that we're in. But my honest opinion is that they just start the new Orhan series. They keep everything connected. Someone suggested on Reddit that they start from scratch, totally anew, but I feel like that wouldn't make sense. I mean, the lore of Ertugrul and Osman are still relevant for the next show. And you still want to keep the IP because you can show flashbacks, you can reference old characters, old villains, so on and so forth. So I definitely think that they should continue on with this series, right? Make another sequel show. New show, new actors, new characters. I really do want them to bring back at least some of the old people. I think Boran should get a good character arc. I think Boran's fantastic. I think Turhan should get a character arc. I think they should recast, Konur Alp. They lost him. He was an important part of the, the Orhan's actual historic legacy. Turgut Bey, I don't know what they're going to do with Turgut Bey, because they brought him back in season 6 and he's like an old man, right? But then in season 7, if there's another time skip, how much older can you get, right? So I don't know what they're going to do with him. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. They really, really need to focus. They need to go back to the drawing board. They need to put in all the passion that they had for Ertuğrul, and they need to not string themselves out with different projects. They need to focus on this Orhan show, make it different, and ensure that it's good all the way through. Otherwise, Bozdag Productions is going to be run down to the ground, and I do not want to see that. I have hope in Bozdag, and the guy that brought us Ertuğrul, the first and only show that broke through Turkey's kind of global ceiling of media popularity, because it was different. Every other Turkish show that I watch, I can't. I tried Barbarossa, I tried Yuanis, I tried this Mehmet Fetihler, and they all have the same formula, where maybe like 10 or 20 minutes of the show will be interesting, but then you have like 2 hours of fluff, and it's just unwatchable. And the storylines and story arcs, they're not very deep. They don't have proper characters. Only this franchise, even Osman, with all its flaws, is still a lot better than all these other shows. And I don't know what the writers are. I mean, I do know. I can deep dive into it, but that's for another video. But yeah, there are some lessons to learn, though. There are some lessons to learn from this series' mistakes. Number one, the Turkish drama model is fragile, right? The top actors hold power, but salary spikes destabilize the entire production system. Loose contracts and narrative inconsistency breed viewer fatigue and stunt long-term storytelling. And if salaries keep escalating, Turkish export dominance may wane unless serious reforms address cost, quality, and quantity. But basically what we're saying is, fix the salaries, fix the contracts, find actors that are actually passionate and want to be able to help you tell the story all the way through, and do right with your characters, make the stories good. Think about this. If you're an actor in Turkey and you're going to be spending like the next year 20 hours a day working on a show, and you want to increase your career, you want to move up in your career, you want to add value to yourself, would it make sense to act in a show where your character has no story arc, no actual storyline, no acting, you don't have a chance to actually perform and express the range that you have in acting? No, you're going to leave that show because it's doing nothing for you. Some people are there just to collect a paycheck, right? That's fine, whatever. But main actors are not like that. People like Emre, people like Alaaddin actor, some people want to actually improve themselves, and Ertuğrul provided the platform to do that, whereas Osman, not so much. Now we wait and see. Will they do a season 7? Can season 7 survive without Burak? Will they just start fresh with, I guess, Kuruluş Orhan? They're going to call it something different. But, it's still going to be a sequel series. Who do you guys think they should cast? Do you guys think that Burak's demands were justified? And let me know. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Well, are you guys going to be watching? That's what I want to know. I definitely will. So, alright guys. Thank you all very much for the wonderful presence. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. And I have 2 videos cooking that are actually going to be scripted and researched, not just kind of ad-libbed like this one. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any suggestions, and thank you all very much. Bye-bye.